What's up, folks? I want to talk about the final update for my Poison Pathfinder Concoction Thrower build thing, and how it went, what I was able to do, and what I wasn't really able to do. I'm very, very pleased with the build. As a starter build, it worked out really well. It's really fun to play. I was able to just keep playing and playing and playing and wanting to play more, and I think there's still a lot of potential within just my gearing alone to go higher. I'll show that in the later parts of the video for where you could really scale it up to, what upgrades I could still make. I'm just not going to continue with this character myself because I have another project that I want to work on, and one of the shortcomings of this build makes it so I can't take this build to do that, which is Uber 5 ways. Uber Legion 5 ways, I should be specific. So, what do we do? What did we change? How do we get here? We got 94, which is pretty good for a starter. It feels very tanky, it feels very good, and that is because we did stick around with Iron Reflexes. I personally like the Iron Reflexes route a lot, because not only do we get a very, very large defensive shell when all our flasks are up, we get 27k armor from there, we also get the benefits of Val Molten Shell on top of it, which feels really, really good. Whoops, I didn't mean to move myself, but you know, things happen. And Iron Reflexes works for me. I know a lot of people went, Nugi included, went the Ghost route option instead, to go Ghost Dance, and then go from there, get some evasion, get some energy shield. That's another great way of doing it. It gives you a little bit more on the elemental side of things. I get a little bit more on the physical side of things. It's just the difference of, you know, what you want to avoid and what you want to not take damage from. That's the way I enjoyed doing it. The other changes were that I still stuck with the Inertia and the Fertile Mines. Those worked out really well for me in terms of just making my gear much, much easier to get, so I don't have to think about any of that stuff. I don't have to get those stats on my gear. Really, really like those. I did end up dropping Mage Bane off the tree as well as Profane Chemistry, because this was a lot of travel points to get for just these two, and you can actually get a lot of spell suppression on your gear, so you don't need to get it from here. So you can just go and grab it, you know, on your gear and drop those points, which then allowed me to get in this cluster of Wicked Pal, Unwavering Evil, and Unholy Grace. Really, any 3 Chaos nodes could work here, so whatever you can get, just go ahead and chuck in here. Because the damage scaling on the skill is a little difficult to get elsewhere, we get some on the tree, but then we really kind of started needing these increased damages, because the increased damages is the one I was missing the most of. Multi and levels I could get pretty much anywhere, and also I could scale it much, much easier with my gear in general, but it was actually very difficult to find increased damage, so just to push it a little bit further, and I needed it for DPS reasons, because you are ramping poison. If you don't have some variance of damage to begin with, you basically do no damage until you ramp, and then that makes mapping awful, and you know, you get the idea. So the tree didn't change much. Just dropped the Mage Bane and grab myself this Chaos Cluster down here. Otherwise, we're pretty much the same. A couple of these nodes up here to get a little bit more life and spell suppression, along with duration for that. In terms of what we ended up doing with the gear pretty much kind of built itself around the idea. I had to get a 30% increased reservation efficiency shield because we ended up running Malevolence, Purity of Elements, and Grace. I was Petrified Blood in the original setup. The reason I am no longer is because one of the things that was killing me was ignites, dots, and things of that nature. Purity of Elements basically gets rid of all the elemental elements you have to worry about, and you don't have to worry about getting it on your gear, so you don't need element avoidance on your boots and all those things. You can just do Purity of Elements, and it gives you a little bit more wiggle room in terms of what you could do with your resistances and things, because you are getting that nice thick 34 all resist from there. So personally, I would say Purity of Elements is really, really strong in a lot of setups right now, because it gives you a lot more damage on your gear, and along with all those avoidances, really, really nice. Just grab it, chuck it in a build. I did end up requiring to run Precision, which is the thing that we dropped. I still have Vitality in the build, along with the 3 other auras that are in the shield. And the reason that we could run all that is because we grabbed a lot of the reservation, or the Dexterity accuracy bonus from this gives us basically our Precision back. So by making our Dexterity, which we have 224 of, be 3 accuracy rating, it's a nice way to get it there, and then the rest of the nodes give us the rest of that. Along with that, we have the reservations, which I don't remember where the hell I picked them up. Vitality reservation is there, we've got Grace reservation there, and then on top of that, we have the 30% shield there, so we just barely fit it in there. with max level stats, and we use Life Tap as our 6th link. That way we can always keep casting. And it actually feels really good to use Life Tap on this, because no matter what distance you're at, you don't have to worry about leech. You're always being able to throw the flask, and that's really, really nice. So the Life Tap setup was actually really, really powerful for the links. So that's the shield. The shield basically just does life and the socketed reservations. I just spammed that with a nice essence randomly as I was clicking around stuff. Got it. It worked out really well for me. In terms of the rest of the gear, we're just kind of getting as much health and resistances as we can, along with some chaos damage over time where we can get it. So on the gear, we got the chaos damage, the life, and resistances. I got a lot of regen on my gear. Regen is really powerful, actually. I regen like 600 when I'm just standing still, 600 life regen here, and then this gives me 900. So I'm regenerating like 900 whenever I pop the sulfur flask and I'm standing on conc ground. Really, really powerful. That's because we have a chest piece with 161 regen. We got gloves with another 89. We've got, I had one more piece of regen gear somewhere, right? Yeah, this has got 60 regen on it, so it's a lot of regen you can get on your gear, and it's really nice to get. So I kind of just went and thought to myself, okay, what do I need to do content? And life and survivability was actually the forefront of what I needed the most of. The damage was pretty good. You know, you'll see from, if I include a boss fight video, the damage is fine on the build. I'm doing like 3.5 million right now once everything is ramped up, and we can go a whole lot higher. So life resistances, and then despair on hit, life resistances, life, and we got plus chaos skills here. If you could get plus chaos plus dex, get chaos multi, any of those things are going to be much better for you in terms of DPS, but they're also a lot difficult to get. So we ended up just going this route instead. The anoint that I use is corruption, because I get wither from my divergent poison concoction. This gives me wither on hit, and since we're hitting quite rapidly, quite a lot, we get wither very easily, so I don't have to worry about a wither totem or anything like that. I wanted the setup for the damage to be as minimal as possible, so we ended up actually using divergent poison concoction. I wish I had a 21. I'll talk about all the upgrades soon. Graded Volley and GMP is what we're using so that we get all this nice overlap. It just turned out to be the best way to get the most DPS out of it. If you replace one of these two with a poison one, something that gives you a 30-40% damage, you kind of lose out on a lot, because 4 projectiles is 4 poisons, and going from 9 poisons to 5 poisons is actually quite a low, so you do want to get that. As far as I can tell, the overlap in the center does hit all of them, but in case it doesn't, you do want to get the Helm enchant for the area of effect for Poison Concoction, and then you will 100% hit all of them in the center on all enemies. I think for this one, maybe something small like your shapers and stuff may not be getting hit, but as far as I can tell from the ring, it looks like the center is getting hit by all of them, so that is the setup I ended up running. Vicious projectiles would be replaced by Awoken Void Manipulation, because that gives +1 to skills. That's really powerful. And then Unbound Ailments, so we have that long duration, and as we are a poison build, we need to keep stacking that. So it turned out Unbound Ailments is the play there. So that's the 6th link now with all the changes and playing the build and knowing what I needed to do. On top of that, like I said, Vitality, Purity, Malevolence, Grace, yep, Life Tap, Ancestral Protector, Culling Strike, just so we can get even more attack speed when we really need it, and then Onslaught gives us even more, so we're really attacking. We can really stack up poisons very quickly. Feels very good. That's nice. And once again, we had to live tap everything because we are reserving 100% of our stuff. I run Frostbomb just because of the Scourge things with heals and Mavens with heals. It's just nice to be able to put this down and reduce the regen rate of enemies, so that's why I run Frostbomb along with live tap, increased area effect. Plaguebearer, of course, really strong when it comes to just clearing. You just, hit one pack of mobs and then turn on Plaguebearer and run through everything, so mapping feels really good. You can always get more Plaguebearer if you run on an Empower instead of a Frostbomb, so you could get an even stronger one here if you want to go that route. Haven't found an Empower, so I haven't really thought about it. Life Tap, Molten Shell, Flame Dash, Faster Casting. Flame Dash is our movement spell of choice because it's just nice, it's quick, and I'm very used to using it, so that's what I ended up using. And then Molten Shell, because we do have so much armor from going RR. We have a very, very thick Molten Shell. Whenever we pop it, we get 55, 54k, and then Valmon Shell is even more than that. Very, very nice in terms of defenses. Is there anything else on the gear or gems I need to cover? So we got life resist, life resist, life resist. We could get boots with the chaos damage deals quicker, or poison damage deals quicker. But realistically, when I get hit the spell suppression, life, and movement speed on these with cold resist, crafted on, and they were chaos based, I just kind of stuck with them because I got my suppression coming from my chest piece, my boots, and a little bit from something else. Nope, that's it. That's all I got. Yeah, okay, those two items, and then what's on the tree is giving me my suppression. I forgot where I was getting that, but that's 30, that's 20, so that's 50%, and then, of course, the trees, this section gives a little bit more here, and then we also get the one for having everything be evasion-based. So that's how we ended up being suppression capped, and it's very nice. Suppression capped is way more powerful than I thought, especially when I switched to a character that wasn't suppression capped. You can feel it. The only thing that I haven't done is I do have this jewel socket here. I would unspec out of this life node, and I would unspec out of... Where's the other life node? I have a node somewhere I would unspec out of. I forgot where it is. But anyway, this one here, now that I'm 94, I would be grabbing this and putting in a Malevolence Watcher's Eye. That would be a massive DPS boost as well. And I think that's actually where I should probably go as to where the build's going from here. Oh, and also the biggest thing is these flasks gain 7 charges when you're hit by an enemy are really powerful. Because we're not evasion based, we're always taking little micro hits. These things charge up non-stop, and they're always up in mapping, and even in bosses, things like Mavens and stuff like that, the little hits you take, they'll top you up all the time. So your flask will basically always be up. Even in standing in town, as you can tell, they're pretty much up all the time, with a small 1 or 2 second delay here and there. But if you get hit once doing anything in the duration of the flask, you're going to get that right back, and it's not going to be a problem at all. What did I end up doing here that's been changed? So we got about 3.5 million DPS right now. If you want to push the build further, you can. So simply just leveling up Awaken Unbound Helmets to a little bit is going to push you up quite a lot as well. Then switching this out to Awaken Void Manipulation level 5 is going to push you up all the way to 4.5. Something that I don't have on my build that you should totally go look for is the helmet focus modifier. So if you want to go and get that, so from this you get the focus modifier, so that you have a nice big burst that you can craft onto your helmets. That's the unveiled modifier for when you're focused, your duration elements goes up. So if you get that into the build, you're going to push yourself way, way higher, but only for a brief moment. So that's going to be like a nice 6.9 mil burst. Very, very strong. If you go in and get yourself a 21 Poison Concoction, that's going to push you up all the way to 4.79. And then on top of that, if you remake the chest piece once again and don't use a spell suppression one like I'm doing, or use a spell suppression one with life and get another +1, you're going to be at a nice 5 million DPS just without the burst from the focuses. And then, you know, focus brings you up to the nice 7.7, so you got about a 4-second 7.7 versus normally having 5. So if you really go ham and you start getting the void manipulations, the unbounds, the 21s, get yourself a +1 active chest, and then on top of that, work on getting yourself an amulet with +1 and chaos multi, or +1 and increased damages. Maybe get rings with chaos multi if you can somehow squeeze that in as well. If you can get all that stuff to go and really start hammering into it, this DPS number can just go sky high. As a result of that, I think it is doable to do breaches, Ubers, stuff like that on this build very, very nicely. But it's just going to take a whole lot of investment, and you're going to cap out somewhere around the 5-7 mil mark in terms of full DPS once you have everything going. You could probably go even higher than that, to be fair, but from there you're gonna need to figure out how to like really min-max the build. Something else that I also don't have is I don't actually have a 28 quality life flask. So I have a hillock, but I just never 28 quality in my life flask. That's another thing that if you're gonna go, you might as well grab that as well. That's some more base damage that's gonna give you even more DPS in terms of what you can do there. I really don't want to like fib all these numbers because, you know, it's not realistically what it's gonna be. unless you really want to invest into it. But, you know, that gives you another 200k if you get that 28 quality Life Flask on top of everything else. So, personally, I really like this build. I think it did everything that I wanted to do, you know, whatever I wanted to do and however I wanted to do it. Also, grab this, grab that, and then get 95. Bam, there you go. Now you got a Malevolence Watcher's Eye in there. So, a lot of ways to upgrade this thing, a lot of ways to take it further. If you want to keep playing it, I highly recommend it. It's really good. It's really tanky. It feels good. Having Valmont Shell when you pop into Scourges feels great. Plague Bearer is sweet for clear. And overall, I just very much enjoyed the build. But that's all there is to it. That's all there really is to what I ended up doing with the build. I'm moving on to other projects. It's going to be great. Hope you enjoyed this build. We'll see what the next one looks like.
You finally caught my attention. Die.
I don't want to. Ow. Do 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 do. Ow.
I'm not up to
Ow.
that yet.
No, where to go?
What's the point?
Others found strength in
Yeah.
their projections. They became reliant on it. I'm not so foolish. Die.
As these slows are cancer. Alright. Yeah, they do kind of suck. Do 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 do. Yeah. Yeah.
This city is...
Life really interesting enough to warrant all this pain. Die.
Beyond, there is only horror.
Die.
Yeah, I mean, some builds are like way tankier than this. By a large margin. But good enough for me. Those did not work out in my favor. But the rest of the stuff, yeah, I can pretty much tank. It's a really easy fight with this setup.
Feel the thrill of
The void, everlasting fire.
Good night, Cody. You have a lovely one. I think I'm staying too close to him to do optimal DPS. I really should get the Helm enchant if I really wanted the damage to go up a lot.
feel the thrill of
The void,
I'm not up to
Look,
that.
that's the one thing I'm missing.
everlasting fire.
That would really take this to the next level. Yeah.
There is only horror.
feel the thrill of
The void,
Ow. 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 Ow.
everlasting fire.
It would be fucking hilarious if this was like a show. The main character was just flexing on the